I love coaching people that want to change the world. I love coaching people who are great visionaries. They may not be very practical, but they're very ethereal, and I love these people because I'm very practical. I'm very structured and analytical, and we bring in a team if they need it, or we help organize their team to do the structure. But I have found the most fascinating people in the world are CEOs.
This is Maestro Minute, the show that discusses all things real estate, sharing interviews with the most successful people in the industry. Hear from their perspective and what they are doing to achieve success. Get exclusive tips on how you can also succeed in real estate. Maestro Minute is brought to you by Maestro Development. Here's your host, Nareg Muradian.
Do you think gratitude supplies or fuels motivation?
100%, because it keeps you in a perpetual state of motivation to where you're so grateful for what you're doing. Now, you could say, Coach, I'm not. That's honest. Well, we got to find a way to make you grateful. So maybe you're in the wrong career. I have a guy that's, look, let me just go to the world leader level. I have an individual who I'm coaching, and they are not in their calling. So I often say you better be careful, because success and money just makes you comfortable while you're miserable. It just makes you comfortable while you're miserable when you're not in the call. And the calling is way different than the career. The career will get you there. The calling will keep you there. It'll keep you in a state of consciousness to where there's this new fluidity of life. And that's the place that we start with our clients, is saying, okay, let's make sure all the vicissitudes you're dealing with, all the business strategy you're dealing with, let's all narrow it down to you.
How do you know if they're not pursuing the perfect calling for them?
This is where we default to the executive assessment, because the assessment is able to give a concrete read. No more speculation. No more even fortune tellers.
Right.
We need people that have got the data, because that's how we're living our lives. We're governed by legislation and policy. We're governed by laws of the land. I mean, it's everywhere.
Right.
It's very interesting that most business leaders don't think about managing their life from a data perspective with concrete scientific tools. But here we're operating on these iPhones and smartphones every day,
Right.
which is the fullness of data and technology, right? So what I would encourage your listeners to do is make an appointment, get a free consult. Let's do an assessment on your brain. Find out the areas of liability and maybe the areas that you don't know that you were really gifted in.
Right.
And it will be a confirmation or an inner witness to say, wow, I've always felt this.
Right.
And then we begin the navigation process very slowly to move you into the calling. You don't leave the career. In fact, that was the mistake I made. I immediately cold turkey went, man, almost went broke. But you do it now under trusted counsel with guidance. We capitalize on where you are, and then slowly you begin to migrate. We've seen a 10x ROI, 50x, 100x, 1000x ROI, because people are living in the fullness of their gratitude.
That rings something in my head as you speak about it, because I get asked a lot, like, hey, what are the hours you work, right? Yeah. Or are you working this day or that day? You know, and as an entrepreneur, you're kind of working all the time, but it's because it's my calling. That's right. I'm always in the mindset of what I'm doing because that's what I want to do, right?
That's right.
So if you guys are watching and you're kind of thinking about, is this your calling or not, or what you're doing? If you're tracking the hours, you're at work or whatever you're doing,
Counting down the days.
Yeah, you're probably not doing your calling.
No.
So besides me being your favorite executive you coach, who else? Who's your favorite? Some of the folks that you've liked mentoring and coaching?
Obviously, we're on NDAs, right? Out of respect. But I think, to answer your question, I love coaching people that want to change the world. I love coaching people who are great visionaries. They may not be very practical, but they're very ethereal. And I love these people because I'm very practical. I'm very structured and analytical. And we bring in a team if they need it, or we help organize their team to do the structure. But I have found the most fascinating people in the world are CEOs. They're the chief executive officer of our own life. But I found that some of them run the biggest businesses in the world, but they don't know how to run this little temple. You know what I mean? Governing the heart. Funny story, just as we wrap up. Coached a guy that sold his company for $40 billion. Very short window of time. In fact, he actually deferred me to his wife, and then she deferred me to the 4 kids whose all net worth went to, like, I don't know, $1 gazillion overnight, right? For them. And I looked at him one afternoon as I was talking to him about coaching, and he said to me, well, why should I invest in this? And I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, do you know where your inferior vena cava is, which is the main artery to the heart? And I said, do you think that if I found an ailment in there to make it better, that that would be valuable? He said, I'm listening. I said, well, I have found the inferior vena cava of your business, and there's a gap here. We can close it. He said, you're hired. Oftentimes, we don't think about the implications of how one decision that we could save you from could save you hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've done it over time and time again. I often tell people I'm their cheapest employee because I'm not the lawyer. I'm not getting a cut. There's no other agenda. I am a true, authentic confidant. And Nerig, that is the congruent element of all the wealthiest kings and queens that have ever lived on the earth.
Right.
They've always had a confidant alongside them.
So what's next? What's next for you, Coach?
I am building this tech company because I have written my first reverse business plan. Not just how much we can make, but how much we can give. And I'd like to give 30 million away over the next couple of years into the work of feeding the poor. We were just at the Dream Center out here, which you should look up. They're feeding 45,000 people per month. Forgive me, it just brings such tears to my eyes because I've had 2 children. We're digging wells in India. We've got a nonprofit organization. I want to be known as the giver. And try to outgive God. You know, I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try. And I'd like to surround myself with people who are thinking legacy and thinking about just changing the world.
Thanks for tuning in to the Maestro Minute podcast. Make sure to rate this podcast if you found it helpful, share it with a friend that could use it, and follow us on all major podcast platforms. The Maestro Minute, powered by Maestro Development.